this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life, with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and world. I'm Dorian Isagulov, and this is what you'll see today. CIS leaders gathered in Moscow for annual Heads of State meeting. What was on the agenda and what initiative did Kazakhstan propose? President Tokayev made an official visit to Turkmenistan. What agreements were reached between the leaders of two countries? Results of the referendum in Kazakhstan. The nuclear power plant will be built. Now the question is, who will participate in this project? President Tokayev proposed an expansion of regional ties within the Commonwealth of Independent States, introducing a new format of CIS+. This announcement was made by Kazakh President during the CIS Heads of State Council meeting earlier this week in Moscow. He also put forward plans for a trade fair in Kazakh city of Taraz, as well as a new initiative of academic capital of the Commonwealth. The agenda covered 14 key issues, including enhancing the organization's global presence, strengthening regional security, and boosting trade relations. For other initiatives and statements made during the high-level meeting at the Grand Kremlin Palace, watch the following report.
The annual meeting of the CIS leaders took place behind the high walls of the Kremlin, where experts described the gathering as an opportunity to sign the watches. Leaders from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Belarus and Uzbekistan arrived in Moscow following their last meeting in Bishkek last year. The summit addressed 14 critical issues ranging from humanitarian cooperation to regional security threats. President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, emphasized the need for renewed impetus in the CIS works in light of geopolitical instability and the rapidly evolving international landscape. In particular, he welcomed the steps taken by Azerbaijan and Armenia towards a peace treaty, as their leaders sat side by side at the meeting table.
Kazakhstan welcomes the mutual steps taken by Azerbaijan and Armenia, aimed at concluding a peace treaty. We also note with satisfaction the significant progress in finalizing the legal formalities for certain sections of the interstate borders in the Central Asia region.
Kazakh presidents highlighted the increasing authority of the CIS on the global stage, proposing the creation of the CIS Plus format to enhance regional ties and foster cooperation with other international organizations. He emphasized the importance of focusing on trade and economic interactions in light of rising instability in the global economy. According to President Tokayev, CIS markets are traditionally attractive for Kazakhstan, comprising over a quarter of the country's external trade turnover. To further this trend, he suggested establishing a trade fair for the CIS countries in the city of Taraz.
It is also important to continue efforts to strengthen cooperation in industrial collaboration, simplify customs regulations, establish new logistics chains, and implement digital technologies. Today, trade fairs are becoming increasingly popular. I propose launching an interstate program called Commonwealth Fair, which will host annual trade events in various cities across the CIS, inviting craftsmen and agrarians from the entire Eurasian region. The first exhibition is ready to be hosted in one of the oldest cities of Kazakhstan, Taraz.
However, one might say trade cannot develop without quality logistics and clear routes. In this regard, Kazakh president emphasized that the country has begun a large-scale expansion of its railway infrastructure along key international corridors.
Last year, I proposed developing a concept for linking the main transport arteries that pass through the territories of the CIS member states. I think this work could be completed as soon as possible. Overall, effective synchronization of global projects such as One Belt, One Road, North-South, the Trans-Caspian route, and others will enable the establishment of a unified concept for economic, institutional, and transport development on the Eurasian continent.
Another promising priority identified by President Tokayev is the need to expand spiritual and cultural ties among CIS nations, highlighting the significant interest in ethno-sport during the recent World Nomad Games in Astana. To further enhance student exchanges, he proposed launching the academic capital of the Commonwealth program. Thus, the summit resulted in signing of 14 documents. As Russia's chairmanship in the CIS draws to a close, leadership will transfer to Tajikistan for the next year. Baljan Samigulina, New Time.
The annual Commonwealth of Independent States Summit in Moscow also focused on security matters, with leaders appointing the chairman of the Coordination Committee on Air Defense and the head of the CIS Anti-Terrorism Center. Additionally, the presidents adopted a 2-year cooperation program for de-eradication efforts and approved amendments to the Interstate Wanted List, enhancing collaborative security measures across the region. So, what does the side-by-side seats of both leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan at the summit signalize about? And what does the threat of Afghanistan for the countries of Central Asia mean in the context of Eurasian security? Baljan Samigulina talked to experts and discussed with them a new Eurasian security concept. Details about it in the explainer section.
As the leaders of the CIS gathered for the discussions in Moscow, a key agenda was a new de-radicalization program proposed by Uzbekistan to combat extremism. Interestingly, first time in 2 years, the meeting included the participation of both the Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. Even though Armenia refused to sign 2 CIS statements on Eurasian security cooperation and no use of unilateral sanctions, observers paid notable attention to the close seats of both leaders on the table of the meeting. Richard Giragosyan, director of Regional Studies Center, independent think tank, said that even though there were no expectations of any diplomatic engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan in Moscow, this meeting was not a missed opportunity for both of them.
So this meeting was not a missed opportunity because rather for Armenia and Azerbaijan, the real emphasis was on the bilateral relationships between their countries and Russia. And in this regard, the real breakthrough came at the end of the meeting, where Russia agreed to turn over border control of the Armenian border with Iran to Armenian sovereign control.
Kazakh analyst Janibek Arunov, an assistant professor at Nazarbayev University, noted that the seating arrangement of the conflicting parties should be viewed as a positive sign.
It's not just coincident that they were sitting next to each other. Because protocol services of both sides and also the hosting country, and they are very meticulously they meticulously think about this kind of small things. And from that perspective, I think to presidents of countries currently in conflict, in military conflict, sitting next to each other should probably be interpreted as a potentially good sign.
The Eurasian security concept was designed to respond appropriately to a wide range of challenges, from traditional military threats to security issues such as energy security, climate change and transnational crime. At its core, it seeks to promote stability, cooperation and development throughout the Eurasia, eliminating external and international risk that could destabilize the region. But if we remember the original reason of the need for Eurasian security and respectively turned to the discussions of past years, we would see the basic factor of Afghanistan when it comes to the countries of Central Asia. The situation there cannot be called calm, but Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, China and Iran are gradually removing diplomatic and economic barriers when working with Afghanistan. Kazakhstan in particular removed the Taliban from the list of terrorist organizations. Thus, Afghanistan is gradually receding into the background as a military danger. In other words, today, while the Afghan situation remains important, it's no longer the sole priority. And here come economic and social issues of the region that are increasingly taking the center stage, Janibek Arunov said.
I fully support that for neighboring countries that we need to find a way to cooperate with Taliban. Anyway, this or that way. So I think in that sense, sometimes the Afghan issue is a bit overemphasized. So, but more urgent issue for me would be domestic social economic issues in Central Asian countries, because economic consequences of the conflicts have been growing for all the countries, and this is creating quite severe, unstable domestic problems for all countries in the region.
However, experts emphasize that it's still too early to talk about a resolution to the Afghan situation. This is largely due to different strategies among countries on how to engage with Afghanistan under Taliban rule, which has complicated the already challenging process of regional consolidation since the Taliban's rise to power in 2021. Currently, there has been little progress on forming an inclusive Afghan government, despite calls from SCO member states for a government that represents all ethnic groups. Moreover, the issue of legitimizing the Afghan authorities remain unresolved on the international stage. In addition, other geopolitical tensions in the region initiated changes in the world order, and in particular has given a rise to the creation of a multipolar world. In the future, the new concept of Eurasian security will help the continent states to respond to a variety of regional challenges, including national and economic security, as well as issues of social development, cultural interaction, and climate change. The pressing question now arises of what are the threats that are common to all countries of Eurasia at the same time, considering it's not in a geographical but in a more mundane sense. Oddly enough, these are not military threats but rather natural and energy ones.
We shouldn't be forgetting about some untraditional security issues, right? So more commonly it's about the climate change, it's about water issue, it's about the border. I mean, of course, most of the border has been settled down in Central Asia, but maybe the most severe one between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, we are hoping, fingers crossed, that they will solve this issue as well. But again, potentially water issues, climate, domestic, economic, social issues will be more important than any kind of war in the region.
The new concept of Eurasian security is based on the fact that European countries can also become participants in the formation of a multipolar world order based on the principles of equal cooperation, excluding external influence. Kazakhstan in these matters adhered to the principle of indivisible Eurasian security and a neutrality policy that is also facing challenges, as noted by Arunov.
And in given circumstances, again, we have neighboring countries who are part of this conflict. We have other important partners who are part of this conflict, and that definitely there is an increasing tension, the pressure on Kazakhstan. But in that kind of circumstances, again, Kazakhstan saying that we are working with anyone based on our own national interest, following international law. I think that's the most logical foreign policy.
Richard Giragassian noted that the bigger trend, nevertheless, would be the escalation of conflict on the Middle East, which, while not having a direct impact on Central Asia, would be likely to divert the attention of major powers to it. He also emphasized that the progress for regional security issues would also demand on the outcomes of the upcoming election in the United States.
Over the short term, the real, let's say, impact will be on the looming U.S. presidential elections coming only weeks away. That will directly impact U.S.-Russian relations and therefore security in Central Asia and Eurasia. So I do think we have developments coming in both the West and the East that could remake the security map for the region.
To sum up, ensuring Eurasian security amid rising geopolitical tensions is a pressing challenge for key regional players and institutions. It encompasses not only military and political issues, but also economic security, addressing a range of concerns from poverty and inequality to climate and environmental challenges. There also remains the problem of religious extremism and terrorism, which without a doubt is extremely important and relevant. All of them are poised to be included to a shifting policy of new Eurasian security concept. Baljan Samigul, Nadir Nurjanov, New Time.
The president of Kazakhstan's proposal to create a new CIS Plus format is a logical step forward for such a significant regional organization. Let's take a moment to look back at the history and some key figures. The CIS was founded on December 8, 1991 by Russia, Ukraine and Belarus, and within just a couple of weeks, 5 Central Asian republics joined them. Today, the CIS functions as a vast common market connecting all economic sectors of its 9 member states, with a combined population of nearly 300 million. Over the past 8 years, trade within the CIS has more than doubled, hitting an all-time high of nearly $119 billion last year. The total GDP of all member countries exceeds $2.5 trillion. These nations are actively trading in agricultural products, machinery and energy resources. Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan alone account for about 94% of the goods supplied to the CIS market. Kazakhstan is set to boost its exports to Turkmenistan by $120 million, covering 80 different products, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev announced during his official visit to country this week. Over the past 5 years, trade between Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan has nearly quadrupled. Moreover, during the talks, Astana and Ashgabat set an ambitious goal to boost trade turnover to $1 billion in the coming years. More details on the official visit of President of Kazakhstan to Turkmenistan you can find in the following report. Ashgabat, the capital of Turkmenistan, welcomed the Kazakh delegation with sunny and warm weather. Equally warm was President Tokayev's meeting with former President Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, father of the current Turkmen leader and chairman of People's Council of Turkmenistan. As tradition dictates, the formal ceremonial part preceded the serious talks. After the Honor Guard commander's report, the national anthem of both countries were played. During their one-on-one meeting, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev emphasized that his official visit aims to elevate bilateral relations to a new level. Later, President Tokayev and Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov unveiled a monument to the renowned Kazakh philosopher Abay, highlighting the shared cultural ties between the two nations, beyond just political relations.
The unveiling of the Abay monument in Ashgabat is a highly significant initiative aimed at further strengthening the brotherly ties between our nations. This year, a monument to the great Turkmen thinker Mahatmulu Piragi was erected in Astana, where he is held in special regard. I am confident that the monument to the great Abay will become a symbol of Kazakh-Turkmen friendship.
In Turkmenistan, where the color white holds deep cultural significance, the Kazakh delegation, in a gesture of respect, used white vehicles for the first time. After the ceremonial welcome, the motorcade headed to the Oghuz Khan Palace complex, where President Serdar Berdimuhamedov received Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. During the talks, Tokayev highlighted significant progress in trade, noting that mutual trade has nearly quadrupled in the past 5 years. Kazakhstan is ready to boost exports to Turkmenistan by about $120 million across 80 product categories.
More than 150 active companies with Turkmen capital are making a significant contribution to strengthening trade and economic ties. Several projects are currently being implemented in various fields, including industry, transport, logistics, and other sectors. Cooperation in the energy sector, particularly in the gas industry, is also developing rapidly.
Following the talks, the leaders of the two countries adopted a declaration aimed at strengthening the friendship and multifaceted strategic partnership between their states. Delegation members at various levels reaffirmed their commitment to cooperation by signing 20 agreements covering gas, oil and logistics sectors. Among these agreements is also a deal to establish direct flights between the two countries.
In the field of transport, 4 documents were signed, 2 memorandums and 2 intergovernmental agreements. The first memorandum concerns the establishment of direct air connections between Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. The second document outlines joint development of the Trans-Afghan corridor, passing through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, extending into Afghanistan and reaching Pakistan, the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean.
Later, the presidents of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan held a joint briefing for the media. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev announced that the countries have adopted a comprehensive program extending until 2027, with a particular focus on trade.
Thanks to our joint efforts, last year, the trade between our countries grew by 28%, surpassing $500 million, with positive momentum continuing this year. We agreed to expand the range of goods traded and focus on increasing Kazakh agricultural exports, particularly wheat, aiming to reach $1 billion in bilateral trade soon. Serdar Berdimuhamedov highlighted the current and future areas of cooperation during the briefing, emphasizing the constructive nature of the Turkmen-Kazakh dialogue.
Serdar Berdimuhamedov in turn highlighted the current and future areas of cooperation during the briefing, emphasizing the constructive nature of the Turkmen-Kazakh dialogue.
I would like to emphasize the constructive and focused nature of our talks, which took place in the traditional atmosphere of mutual trust and openness that defines relations between our two countries. The current level of bilateral dialogue was highly praised, covering all areas, including politics, economy, and cultural and humanitarian spheres.
In conclusion, the presidents expressed their satisfaction with the outcomes of the talks, aimed at further strengthening Kazakh-Turkmen relations. Daurian Sagulov, New Time. One of the key outcomes of President Tokayev's visit to Turkmenistan was the agreement on developing the gas industry. Kazakhstan plans to actively participate in projects related to development of Turkmenistan's gas condensate fields and the expansion of pipeline infrastructure. The national company Kazakh Gas and the state concern Turkmen Gas signed this strategic agreement. According to Sanjar Jarkeshev, chairman of Kazakh Gas, this document is historic as it marks the first agreement of its kind between Astana and Ashgabat.
With Turkmenistan as one of the countries, Kazakhstan, Kazakh Gas is considering expanding its resource base as well. So today we are signing a milestone document, which is a historical achievement. We're strategic cooperation in gas industry, which consists of three major points. One is the entrance to the consortium of Galkanish gas field, which is one of the largest gas fields in the world. And the third one is the importation of trade gas to Kazakhstan. So thanks to our president, we have achieved this milestone, and we're very hopeful to work with Turkmen Gas and the consortium members.
Learn more about this with plenty of exclusive footage and interviews in the Silksways special project Reporter with President. Throughout this week, my colleague Ainura Mangali gathered exclusive political content from both Moscow and Ashgabat. Be sure to catch the new episode on October 14 on Silkway TV channel. For Kazakhstan, enhancing ties with countries like Turkmenistan is particularly advantageous because it not only strengthens its regional influence, but also opens up access to new markets and trade routes, said political observer Ozhet Shigerbayev. In his view, despite its neutral status, cooperation with Ashgabat, as demonstrated by recent transport and logistics projects, benefits Kazakhstan in its dealings with countries in the Persian Gulf, India and many others. Please take a look at the fragment of our interview with Ozhet Shigerbayev.
So the main principle of Kazakhstan foreign policy in Central Asia, as our president said on the last summit of Central Asian states, is that successful Central Asia is successful Kazakhstan. So first of all, we are trying to create the system of strategic balance. So we are trying to create the tight trade economic cooperation with each of Central Asian states. If we look to Turkmenistan, in 2016 we opened the railroad Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, which potentially could open to Kazakhstan the road to the Iranian ports like Chabahar, Bandar Abbas, and furthermore to the Persian Gulf, and then to the Eastern Africa and India. So our main point here is that our main interest is to increase our cooperation, to increase our role in the region itself, not only with Turkmenistan, but through Turkmenistan, with Iran, also with Afghanistan. For instance, this year, Kazakhstan showed its interest to participate in the buildings of the railroad from Turkmenistan to Afghanistan and furthermore to Pakistan. It was in the spring this year.
Turkmenistan, as an important integration partner for Central Asia, can partially offset the region's gas deficit, said Zhumabek Sarabekov, an expert in international affairs. He noted that despite its policy of absolute neutrality, in recent years, Ashgabat is increasingly trying to engage in Central Asia's integration processes. To this end, Turkmenistan is leveraging its main regional advantage, its leading gas reserves. What goals does this Central Asian republic pursue today, and what still hinders its active cooperation with all regional players? Find out in the next segment. Turkmenistan has upheld its policy of neutrality since 1995, recognized by the UN General Assembly. This policy shapes its predictable foreign relations approach. It keeps a distance from geopolitical affairs and refrains from joining major regional groups, said Zhumabek Sarabekov, political scientist and expert in international affairs. For example, Turkmenistan is not a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and participates in the Organization of Turkic States only as an observer. Last year's Treaty on Central Asian Cooperation was adopted without Tajikistan and Turkmenistan. But still, as one of the world's leading gas producers, Turkmenistan aims to leverage its vast energy reserves to secure strategic advantages.
At the same time, despite its neutral stance, Turkmenistan actively seeks to expand its gas exports, prioritizing the Chinese market, with plans for a new pipeline, Line D. It also aims to enter South Asia via the TAPI pipeline, though progress remains limited.
That is why Turkmenistan remains an important integration partner for Central Asia in matters of energy resources. In particular, Turkmenistan can partially compensate for the gas deficit in the region. For example, part of the Turkmenistan-China gas pipeline passes through Kazakhstan, and some of this gas is used to meet Kazakhstan's domestic needs, as Kazakhstan itself has modest reserves and only extracts associated gas, emphasized Zhumabek Sarabekov.
Turkmenistan's gas resources are crucial for Kazakhstan and the region, especially amid rising energy demand. As populations and economies grow, so do the need for gas. This partnership with Turkmenistan is set to deepen, given its substantial reserves that can meet regional needs.
Turkmenistan's total foreign trade turnover for the first half of 2024 reached $9.6 billion. To expand its product range and boost exports, the country needs to focus on logistics, said the expert.
Central Asia is increasingly becoming a vital transit bridge between Europe and China, with Turkmenistan actively leveraging its transit potential via the Caspian Sea. Ashgabat aims to integrate its transport capabilities into this international flow, reflecting its growing engagement on the global economic stage.
The main barrier to Turkmenistan's full integration into Central Asia is the lack of regional infrastructure needed for effective cooperation between countries. Transport connectivity and logistics issues persist despite efforts to develop international networks, said Sarabekov. Additionally, Turkmenistan's limited involvement in major international trade agreements restricts its ability to fully integrate into regional processes. Daurian Isagulov, New Time. More than 71% of voters in Kazakhstan expressed their support for the construction of a nuclear power plant, according to the final results from the Central Election Commission. A total of 7.8 million residents participated in the nationwide referendum, with over 5.5 million voting in favor of developing peaceful nuclear energy. The overall voter turnout exceeded 63%, leading the Central Commission to declare the referendum a success and confirm a positive decision on the nuclear power plant project. Now the pressing question is, who will take part in this project? What are the next steps following this approval for the country's first nuclear power plant? Stay tuned, as Balzhan Samigulina will provide answers in our upcoming segment.
Supporters of nuclear energy won in every region of Kazakhstan during the recent referendum, with no exception. Kostanay region had the highest support, with nearly 82% in favor, while Almaty recorded the lowest at about 54%. In Ulken, the village designated for the plant's construction, 1,066 out of 1,069 voters participated, achieving a turnover of 97%, with nearly 90% of voting in favor. The integrity of the voting process was monitored by 244 local organizations and 177 foreign observers from 30 countries, including representatives from major international organizations. Heads of election commissions from Tajikistan, Belarus, Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan were also present, along with 200 accredited journalists from 37 countries. Observers from the Organization of Turkic States confirmed that the referendum was conducted openly and transparently.
We didn't encounter any illegal acts during our mission, so we view the conduct of the referendum positively. Our mission thinks that this referendum was carried out in accordance with the national legislation of the Republic of Kazakhstan and within the framework of internationally recognized standards for conducting referendums.
Now the question lies on who will participate in the nuclear power plant project. The government of Kazakhstan must navigate the complex task of establishing procedures and selecting the main construction company. President Tokayev informed journalists that an ideal scenario would be forming an international consortium of leading companies with the most advanced technologies.
The government needs to conduct an analysis and engage in relevant negotiations. However, my personal view on this matter is that an international consortium should operate in Kazakhstan, consisting of leading companies with the most advanced technologies.
The concept of an international consortium for the nuclear power plants was first articulated publicly a few years ago. Silkwood TV channel previously conducted a series of interviews with representatives of companies who are in the short list, and nearly all of them expressed interest in joining the consortium. However, the details of any agreement still need to be negotiated with the Kazakh side, they noted. Experts are now discussing the possibility of expanding the list of potential partners for the project. Currently, 4 companies exist on the shortlist: South Korean QHNP, Chinese Yan'an-C, Russian Rosatom, and French EDF, and the final decision will ultimately be made by Kazakh government to be followed up. Baljan Samigulina, New Time.
Poland, which plans to build its first nuclear power plant in the near future, is considering partnering with Kazakhstan in this energy sector, said Mikhail Labenda, chargé d'affaires of Poland in Kazakhstan. In an exclusive interview with New Time, Labenda highlighted the key areas of trade and economic partnership between Warsaw and Astana, emphasizing both countries' commitment to deepening their cooperation. He also addressed the main challenges that Polish investors currently face in Kazakhstan. For more insights, please watch this fragment of our interview. Thank you. And if you don't mind, let me start with this question. We know that Poland is one of Kazakhstan's important economic partners in Central Europe. So what specific industries do you see as having the most growth potential in this partnership?
Honestly speaking, I would reply with a very true statement that for Poland, Kazakhstan is the most important partner, both in political and economical sense here in Central Asia and also in the whole region. I see that for now we have quite successful economical relationship, and for now our trade balance is around 2.3 billion USD, which is quite equally divided into import and export. For us, the main export products are the machinery of different kind, but also chemical industry. We have also some products, agricultural products being sold here. And for instance, this is not something. It's not a level which is already set up. For instance, in November, Kazakhstan will have a big agricultural exhibition and trades in Almaty, and I know that many Polish companies are going to come. And also from the Kazakh side, there is mostly we import from Kazakhstan mineral resources, but also some other things like some other products like agricultural products and also a little bit of machinery. So it's something which is a very good basis, because this trade over on the level of 2 billion is a good one, but we have quite big opportunities to develop, and also we have a lot of investments here in Kazakhstan, but we would like also to invite investors from Kazakhstan to try their luck in Poland.
May I ask you this question? What are the main challenges that Polish companies face today working in Kazakhstan?
In Kazakhstan, our main challenge is, of course, something which we cannot change. It's geography, because Kazakhstan for Poland and Poland for Kazakhstan, it's quite a remote market. And also the fact that Kazakhstan is a landlocked country, it's also something which is a kind of obstacle for a good trade. But this is something which is natural and we can overcome it. And before 2022, it wasn't such a big difficulty. Now the most important difficulty and obstacle is the fact that the main route for our products to come to Kazakhstan it's by Russia, and during the sanctions this route is closed for us. So it's extremely difficult to provide our products to Kazakhstan, and also all other kinds of economic activities are hampered by this factor.
Nevertheless, can you elaborate on the major economic projects that we have between Poland and Kazakhstan?
The major, I would divide this into two kinds of projects. There are very well developed bilateral projects. For instance, we have a very important investor here in the field of pharmacology. The company called Santo, they have quite a big factory in central Kazakhstan, and they're going to expand on it. And the second part of our economic relationship is a little bit broader in framework of the European Union. For last 20 years, we have been members of member state of the European Union, and of course we join major economical projects which EU has with Kazakhstan and with Central Asia. The most important is the global gateway, and this is something which is profitable, and we pay a lot of attention to that. It's profitable for both sides. Kazakhstan, as far as I know, recognized the importance of this project. In June this year, there was an agreement signed in Astana about Trans-Caspian trade route, and from one side, the states which participate in that, those are the member states of EU, but also Georgia, Azerbaijan. On this side of Caspian Sea, this is Kazakhstan, and there is also participation of many international financial institutions who are going to finance and cooperate in this scope.
Speaking about cooperation in energy field, we know that European countries are moving towards greener future. It's something that we share in common, because Kazakhstan also sets some ambitious goals to achieve, for example, how to say, greener future. So can you elaborate on this topic?
This is something where many countries, those countries who are aware of the dangers connected with fossils and with irrational use of them, which they understand, and Kazakhstan is one of them. Poland is also part of this project. So we move towards greener or green energy. In Poland, there are many projects on that. Wind energy is very popular and becoming more and more popular. We are also planning to have at least one nuclear station being built in next future. I know that Kazakhstan has the same projects, the same plans, and here we do cooperate. We share experience. Kazakhstan, Poland, we are very active in all COP meetings which take place every year, as you know. But nevertheless, we are also aware that the hydrocarbons which we buy from Kazakhstan for a long time will remain a very important part of our trade.
That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.